Hello and welcome to the Formbook. 4 days of scintillating action coming up at Prestbury Park for the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. And we're going to preview it all here on the Formbook. We're going to do 4 separate shows, kicking off today with day 1, looking ahead to races, of course, such as the Champion Hurdle, the Arkle, the Supreme Novices, and much more. Plenty of pundits alongside me. We'll also have lots of ET to use. Really looking forward to getting stuck into the action. This is the Formbook, Cheltenham Festival style. Yes, welcome along. Looking forward to all the action at Cheltenham. Remember, you can watch every race, all 28, live on Racing TV. I've got Harry Allwood with me from the Racing TV website team, and I've got Tipstar champion Katie Midwinter. Katie, how much are you looking forward to these 4 days of action?
I can't wait. It's the highlight of the year for me. It's just the pinnacle of our sport. It's the best 4 days of racing that we can wish for. And I'm just really excited to be there and experience it all.
What about yourself, Harry? Going to be a busy week. You'll be on the ground all 4 days.
Yeah, echo Katie's thoughts. Really looking forward to it, Danny. Hoping to be there on the Monday as well to see some of the horses work on the gallops. But yeah, very much looking forward to the 4 days. Feel like the build-up starts earlier and earlier each season. But yeah, how can you not love the next 4 days at Cheltenham? It's the pinnacle of our sport, and the buzz is very much started.
Really looking forward to all the action. Let's get on to it then. Let's have a bit of housekeeping first. Delighted to say these 4 episodes of the Formbook are going to be sponsored by Bet UK. Great to have them aboard. You can check out all their best prices. So we've got get £30 in 3 bets when you bet £10. This is for new customers only. Deposit and place a bet within 7 days and settle a £10 minimum bet at odds of 4 to 5 or greater. Please remember to gamble responsibly. But that's the offer from Bet UK. They are, of course, also going non-run and no bet on the Cheltenham Festival. Terms and conditions do apply. But make sure if you like the look of, for example, when we're recording Ballyburn to run in either the Birmingham or the Supreme, and he doesn't run in one of those, you'll, of course, get your money back. Racing TV is also celebrating 20 years of Cheltenham Festival coverage. Been a superb partnership down the years, and we're giving a special offer to anyone who wants to get involved and watch the racing on Racing TV. If you look in the corner of your screen, that QR code is a limited time offer for new customers for Cheltenham. It's a 12-month half-price deal, only channel showing all 28 races live. We're on air from 10 a.m. every day, so that means you get 8 exclusive races whilst watching Racing TV, and that offer is only available to customers who are, of course, watching the Formbook today. So if you want to scan that QR code, make sure you get involved. But thanks to Bet UK for coming aboard. And let's have a look at how they bet in terms of the top jockey. 1 to 3 favourite is Paul Townend. 5 to 1, Jack Kennedy. 10 to 1, Mark Walsh. Nico de Boinville's at 12s. Cobden and Blackmore at 16s, 20s. Bar. Top trainer, Mullins 1 to 10. 7 to 1 for Gordon Elliott. 10 to 1, Henderson. 50s for the Bromhead and Nichols. Skelton at 100 to 1. And what about their betting in terms of Willie Mullins train winners? Well, Bet UK go 5 to 4. He has 8 or 9 winners. 6 to 4 over 9 winners. 3 to 1, 6 or 7 winners. And 10 to 1 under 6. Just highlighting the quality and talent that he could have over more than 7 winners, which is, obviously 1 race day. Ridiculous amount of talent at Close Sutton. So there you go. That's all that sorted. Why don't we then get straight into the action? And we're going to kick off, of course, with the festival curtain raiser. That's the Supreme Novices Hurdle. And this is how they bet. 4 to 5, favourite Ballyburn Bet UK. 7 to 2 for both Firefox and Mystical Power. You'd have to say Firefox is the one who's been backed in recent days. 4 to 1 for both Tully Hill. Mystical Power's there again, but should be 7 to 2. Now, Jericho de Repene at 7 to 1. 8 to 1 Slade Still. Mr. Giff at 14s. 16s for Il Atlantique, who probably is going to go for the Gallagher. Tell her the name at the same price. 20 to 1 Asian Master. 25 to 1 Bar. Come to you first, Katie. How do you see this?
I think it all depends on whether Ballyburn turns up or not. I've got the feeling that he might go for the Gallagher on the Wednesday. But if he does run here, he is the one to beat, especially on his race at the DRF, where he beat Slade Steele, a Grade 2 winner. He's very effective over 2 miles, but I kind of feel that his optimum trip is that intermediate trip of 2.5, 2 mile 5. I think that will suit him best. Because we did see him get defeated earlier in the season by Firefox over 2 miles. Now, we know that maybe fitness edge for Firefox that day, it may have played its part, and Ballyburn most likely would have improved for that run anyway, because it was his first run of the season. And I think Willie Mullins' horses tend to take a bit of time to get going sometimes, so they're able to peak for the big spring festivals. But we saw Ballyburn on this day at Leopardstown. He was hugely impressive. And if he was to put in that kind of performance again in this race, then he'd definitely be tough to beat. But I just have that sneaking feeling that he'll probably run in the Gallagher. And I hope he does run there, because I think that trip will just suit him perfectly.
If you think Ballyburn's going to go there, then Katie, who do you like in the Supreme?
I'm leaning towards Mystical Power. Now, we know he comes into the race with a big reputation. He's by Galileo out of Annie Power. So a lot of people are probably going to latch on to him. But I was really impressed by him this day at Punchestown. His jumping maybe could improve a little bit, but he's probably not going to be the best hurdler or the slickest hurdler, because he is by Galileo, of course. But I think he's got that bit of class edge to him. He's got a lot of speed and a good engine. And we saw Jigaro there finishing second. He then finished third to Tully Hill. So he's a consistent enough horse in behind. The form does stack up. That was the first time Mystical Power had been seen in graded company as well. And I think maybe he could improve a little bit further and hopefully run a big race in this Supreme.
Okay, so Mystical Power for Katie. Harry, in terms of the Ballyburn saga, it's been going on longer than an EastEnders plotline, but what do you think in terms of where they're going to go? Do you agree with Katie? Would you be leaning towards the Gallagher over the Supreme?
Yeah, definitely, Danny. I think if I owned him or trained him, I'd definitely be going for the Gallagher Novices hurdle. He did 1 over 2 miles last time out, but it was on softish grounds. If the ground is good to soft on the first day, that will pose a different test to him as well. He's bred to get further. The vibes from connections have always been that he wants a further trip than 2 miles. So I think, yeah, if I had to choose, he would go for the Gallagher Novices hurdle. If he does turn up here, I expect him to be ridden positively and probably attempt to make all, really, because, you know, he's got that stamina as well that we know. So if he does run here, he's probably, I would say, the one to beat. I agree with Katie. He's got the best form on offer based upon his latest win at the Dublin Racing Festival. If I just scan your thoughts back to a few months ago, though, he did finish second to Firefox. As Katie mentioned, he probably did need the run that day, but I thought Firefox was pretty good this day at Fairyhouse. Watching it now, he did get the run of the race, but Ballyburn was always tracking him, and I thought he showed much more speed than Ballyburn this day, which is why I think Ballyburn should go over further at the Cheltenham Festival. Firefox did have the benefit of a recent run this day. Ballyburn would have needed the run. Most of William Mullins' top performers were, you know, stripping fitter for a run under about at the start of the season. And if I had to side with one at this moment in time, it would be Firefox. I think you can forgive his latest out in the Lords and Ace Novices hurdle. He wasn't quite right after that, Gordon Elliott said, but his handler holds him in extremely high regard. He seems to be back to himself now. He said he's been working really well. He hasn't had the ideal prep, I would say, because he had those issues after his last run. But before that, he looked really good. And he's one of Gordon Elliott's better chances of the week, in my opinion. So at the prices, it would be Firefox for me.
Neither of you have mentioned Tully Hill. Do you not see him getting involved in the finish? Harry, come back to you. Do you think out of the Mullins battalion towards the top of the market, he's the one that you'd be less keen on?
I would say so. I think watching back Road to Cheltenham the other day, Ruby Walsh was saying about his jumping. It's not up to scratch. And if you watch his races back, he's been a little bit sloppy, a little bit slow. I just think his jumping is obviously going to be put under, you know, a big test here. And he'll need to definitely brush up his jumping to go close. So for that reason, I'm against him.
This is Tully Hill winning at Punchestown. That's kind of the vast majority of the Irish battalion. The two intriguing English contenders, you'd have to say, firstly, of course, is Jericho de Repene, representing Nicky Henderson. His win last time out has obviously been franked by the win of Lump Sum in the Dovecote. So he's an interesting contender, you'd have to say, for Henderson. Of course, has got a good record in the race. And also, tell her the name. Harry, come back to you here, because you spoke to Ben Pauling recently. He's a horse that me and you both like. We fancied him for the Betfair. Obviously, missed that race because of the ground. At the moment, the ground at Cheltenham is still soft, but hopefully he'll be fine with that on day one. But in terms of those two British Raiders, just having a look at Tell Her the Name first, what do you make of their chances?
Yeah, Tell Her the Name is a horse that's got bundles of ability. I was really impressed with this win at Huntingdon. He obviously disappointed in grade one at Aintree on his penultimate start, but that was very much down to the grounds. Connections found a couple of little issues with him after as well, because he did start quickly that day. The only thing that's putting me off Tell Her the Name is that he is better on better going, in my opinion, because when he ran on soft in that grade one at Aintree, he was really disappointing. If the ground continues to dry out and it is good to soft on day one, which the betting suggests it will be, and looking at the forecast, there's a good chance it will be too, then I'll definitely be having a save on him each way. But if the ground is soft, then I think that's going to be a big concern. I think it's probably a good thing that he missed a Betfair hurdle. I asked that question to Ben Pawn the other day, and he agreed because he's going here a fresh horse and he's got a lot more to offer. I think his hurdling could be improved maybe, but he's pretty good. I think it's probably a bit harsh, really. He seemed to improve as the race went on last time out, and he's a horse who's got buns of ability. Ben Pauling thinks he's the best horse in his yard. I remember mentioning on the Formbook, I think it's the first one we recorded, that I spoke to him at the start of the season, and he said that he's hoping this horse takes him to the next level over the next few months. So at double figure odds, are definitely worth having a saver on each way if the ground is good to soft on day one.
What about Jericho de Repene, Katie? Just a brief word on him.
I think he's a bit of a forgotten horse in here. He's unbeaten. He hasn't maybe been as visually impressive as some of the others in the field, but I think he will have learnt plenty from his run so far. And I think he's shown that he has that battling attitude as well. And as you mentioned, the form has been franked by Lump Sum. Fiercely Proud ran well, and his subsequent run in the Dovecote as well. And Secret Squirrel, who he beat previously, is a horse that I'm a big fan of. I think he may be better than many may think. So I do think that Jericho de Repene could play a part in the race.
Okay, that's a look then at the Supreme. So just a reminder of the guys' selections. It's Mystical Power for Katie and Firefox for Harry. That's the Supreme. Next race we're going to have a look at then is the Arkle. Here's the betting on your screen. 4-1 co-favourites of 3 currently with Bet UK. Ilete Tom, Founder 50, and Gaelic Warrior, who, if you believe Richie the owner, was confirmed for the race last night. 11-2 Hunter's Yarn, 13-2 Facile Vega, Quilixios, 7-1 JPR1, My Mate Mozzie at 10-1, and it's 20-1 bar. So obviously, they can't really split them at the top of the market. Start with you this time, Katie. Where are you leaning towards the top?
Well, I was thinking of the horses that are definitely going to run here. I'd be leaning towards Founder 50. I was really impressed by him at Leopardstown over Christmas when he beat Facile Vega, My Mate Mozzie, Sharjah. I think he pretty much did everything wrong that day. He kept jumping to his right. He looks quite quirky. He definitely isn't the most straightforward horse, but he showed that he has a massive engine, and he was able to get away from them, fairly easily here. Facile Vega probably was disappointing on the day, and I don't think the 2 miles is going to suit Facile Vega if he does line up here. But I just like the way Founder 50 kept going towards the line. We see My Mate Mozzie there closing a little bit on him. But as I said, I think Founder 50 did plenty wrong on that day, and I think he can improve a lot for it. He did well at the DRF in his following run, just beaten by Ilete Tomps, but I can see him reversing that form. So he'd be the way that I'd go. But I am worried about Gaelic Warrior if he does turn up. I think he's going to be the one that can really serve it up to him.
Here's Gaelic Warrior, of course, winning at Limerick, winning that Vaheen Novices Chase. He's beating Ilete Tom on that occasion, who, of course, has then gone on to win the Irish Arkle. Why are you most worried about him, Katie? Is it the fact that he's just got that latent ability that some others in this just might not have?
I think so. I think he's got that class edge, and he's a very versatile horse. We're seeing him here winning over nearly 2.5 miles, heavy ground. He is better suited when he goes right-handed. The worry a little bit is on that old course at Cheltenham, it probably isn't going to suit him as much as maybe the Turners would on the new course. But I think he can really be effective in this race. It's kind of fallen apart a little bit with Marine Nationale disappointing at the Dublin Racing Festival and, of course, missing out now. There have been a couple of other disappointments in here this season, Facile Vega, the most notable one. And I just think it could be an opportunity for Gaelic Warrior to take advantage. He can use his speed to good effect. But it all comes down to his jumping and the way that he's going to handle the track, because it can be quite tight coming around those turns. So if he's there with a fence to jump, I think that he's going to have a really good chance. But it just depends on how the race pans out for him.
Katie talks about a preference going right-handed. There's also this, though, H. He can be a bit of a naughty boy. Here he is before his race at the DRF, misbehaving in the parade ring. That was turning a lot of people off his chances even before the race. He can be fizzy. We saw him get beat, of course, by Brazil a couple of years ago in that Boodles. But would that also be another concern? The hullabaloo of the Cheltenham Festival, could that maybe get to him, Harry?
100%, Danny. Yeah, this isn't good viewing, is it? Because, as a horse gets older, you like to think that they get less exuberant and settle better. But he was really on edge before this run at the Dublin Racing Festival. And if he does this at Cheltenham, he could potentially blow his chances before the off. I've got no doubt that he is the best horse in this race, but as Katie mentions, he's much better going right-handed. If this race was right-handed, then I'd be, firmly in his camp. But I just think going left-handed, 2 miles around Cheltenham, I just don't think it's going to suit him that well. He's already beat Allwood Thomas pretty much on the bridle earlier this season. And as I say, I think he's definitely best horse in the race, but there's a few negatives there that would put me off him. Allwood Thomas is a solid performer for Willie Mullins. He obviously impressed at Dublin Racing Festival with his attitude last time out. Found a 50 is another solid proposition here as well. It's not really a race that I've got a strong opinion on, if I'm totally honest with you. But the one else we haven't mentioned yet is Hunter's Yarn, who I keep coming back to. If I was forced to have a bet, he would be the one that I would be signing with. I was lucky enough to do a feature with Anthony Bromley at the start of this season for the Irish Racing Yearbook. And he gave a couple of horses to follow, including Hunter's Yarn, over fences this season. Definitely think he fit under the category of whatever he does over hurdles is a bonus. His jumping hasn't been great over fences yet. He fell when he was going to win a couple of starts ago, but I was impressed with him last time out, despite a couple of novice errors on the way around. And Willie Mullins has advised that he's had an away day schooling recently, and he was really impressive too. So I definitely think he's got the ability to go close. If his jumping holds up, then I can see him being involved in the finish.
Harry talks about his win at Fairyhouse. This is it in the mighty double green, and he has been nibbled in recent days. Bet UK currently quoting at 11-2 for Hunter's Yarn. I've got 2 fancies in the race. First one is Quilixios. Good reports about him this week. This was a nice performance at Naas on his most recent start. He's been given a bit of a break since, but I still think he's open to a bit more improvement. He's already a winner at the Cheltenham Festival. He'll have to improve again, but I think this is one of the most open Arkles in recent years. Plenty can be made a case for, and I think he definitely commands plenty of respect. So I wouldn't be putting you off Quilixios, who's around the 6-1, 13-2 mark. Bet UK current price I'm looking at is 13-2. The other one I'm really sweet on is my mate Mozzie. I'm disappointed they haven't gone for the Grand Annual, if I'm brutally honest, because I think he would have won that. But I still think at 10-1 with Bet UK, he is a stonking price. He's a horse who can be tricky, difficult ride. Here you have, of course, Keith Donoghue just nursing him along to win at Cheltenham. We already saw him finish second to Founder 50. But I guess they've been swayed by Marine Nationale coming out of the race, and they've decided to have a tilt at the Arkle. He's got talent. He's proven at the track. And I just think maybe in quite an open run all of the race, I think my mate Mozzie makes appeal at an each way price of around 10-1. So that's my selection. The 2 guys are with Hunter's Yarn for Harry and Found a 50 for Katie. Next race we're going to have a look at is the Ultima, straight after this. Here's your betting. 5-1 favourite Meeting of the Waters, who of course was purchased earlier this week by JP McManus from Paul Byrne. 6-1 for the Gotha. Chianti Classico at 8-1. Giovinco and Stumptown and Theatre Man, who could run here or in the place at 10-1. 14-1 for Am I Right, Appleway and Trelawn. And it's 16-1 bar. Harry, let's go to you first on this occasion for the Ultima. A race, of course, which Britain has had a good record in dominating in recent years.
They certainly have done it, yeah. But the Irish are dominating the betting currently with Meeting of the Waters heading the betting, followed by the Gotha, who ran well in this race last year. Just to touch on Meeting of the Waters quickly, he's got a much higher mark to contend with now. There was a few comments going around that he could potentially be a Gold Cup horse for next season. I expect connections were probably hoping that JP McManus was watching that, because obviously he's been purchased by the legendary owner since. He's an improving horse. I was really impressed with his win a couple of starts ago. Obviously things didn't go right for him last time out, but he's got a lot more to offer. He's only 7. His jumping is pretty good. He looks tailor-made for a race like this, but I just think of his career high mark, he's going to need to pull out more. And I would rather side with one of the British contenders, actually, in Chianti Classico, who is probably one of my better each way fancies of the week in the handicaps. He is a horse that Kim Bailey thinks a lot of. I was lucky enough to visit Kim Bailey's at the start of this season, and he mentioned how much he thought of this horse and how much he's going to improve this season. I think he's done just that as well. He's impressive on his seasonal debut at Chepstow, but his last few starts have been right-handed, and while he has won right-handed and run well in defeat right-handed, I think going back left-handed is really going to suit him here. I think off a rating of 143, he's definitely nicely handicapped. I think he's tailor-made for a race like this. Kim Bailey's been talking of his chances this week as well. So if there was a strong fancy each way in the handicaps this week that I had to pick, it would be Chianti Classico.
So Harry will be popping the Chianti if Chianti Classico can do the business. What about yourself, Katie? You like one that ran against Meeting of the Waters in the Paddy Power, don't you?
Yeah, depending on the ground. I'm hoping the ground keeps drying out for Am I Right of Henry de Bromheads. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's on a workable enough mark off 142. The trip is going to suit him, and he ran quite well behind Meeting of the Waters at Leopardstown, and there's a £13 swing in the weights in his favour this time around with Meeting of the Waters. And whilst I think it will take a lot to reverse that form, if Meeting of the Waters does keep showing improvement with the real huge increase in the weights that he has now, I do think Am I Right can run a big race on ground that is probably better, because it was a little bit soft at Leopardstown last time for him, but he was still able to run quite good to finish 5th. He was still staying on in the finish. He goes well fresh too, so the fact that he hasn't been seen since around the Christmas time is a huge positive for him, and I think he could be one at an each way price that is going to run well. The saddle slipped as well at Cheltenham in October, so you can excuse that run for him. Hopefully he can put that behind him and run a big race.
Harry, another horse you wanted to mention is Giovinco for Lucinda Russell. She's got a couple of entries still in the race, but obviously we're seeing him here finishing second to Stay Away Faye, who of course is one of the leading contenders for Grade 1 honours later on in the week. So what do you make of Giovinco?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good run, Danny, beyond Stay Away Faye, who is of course the leading contender for the Brown Advisory. The reason I mention this horse is because Apple Away is in the race, but it's currently not due a run. She needs quite a few to drop out, basically. So if Apple Away does get in the race, then Giovinco will probably go for the Brown Advisory or the Turners. But if Apple Away doesn't run, then Giovinco is heading here, Lucinda Russell said earlier this week. So if he does run here, I think he's got a cracking chance. He's got some strong form next to his name. I was a big fan of him last season over hurdles. I thought he showed bundles of ability. I actually backed him anti-post for the Brown Advisory. So part of me is hope he does go for that race as well. But if he does turn up here, it's hard to see him not going close, really. I was impressed with him last summer. He made the most of a good opportunity, admittedly, but I thought that was a perfect prep run for this contest. He's shown some good form in good races this season. So behind Stay Away Faye, that's a real strong piece of form. I think he's still nicely treated as well. The ground should suit him. I think he's another, similar to Chianti Classico, is going to be tailor-made for this contest. And he's a horse that Lucinda Russell holds in high regard. So if he does run here, he's definitely worth an each way bet, but there is a chance, of course, that he may go for the Brown Advisory or the Turners instead.
A couple of others to mention. Stumptown is one that I've had a few quid on. I think he's got a good chance for Gavin Cromwell. He keeps going up in the weights, but Blinkers did the business for him here on this occasion. This was a good effort, beating Inch House at Cheltenham on New Year's Day. He's a horse who clearly likes the track. I think that's a big factor for him here. But I do think he is high enough in the weight, but I still think he can run well for Gavin Cromwell. I've already given to Gavin Cromwell. I'm a Gavin Cromwell fanboy, but Stumptown, I think, has got good chances of going close. The other one, if he ran, is Theatre Man. I think he would have a right old shout, but I could understand if they decided to stay with the plate, for which he is shorter, 10-1 currently with Bet UK for the Ultima. Here he is finishing second to Ginny's Destiny. Spot the white cap. He stays on strongly to take second in the end. Many thought that maybe that step up to 3 miles for the Ultima would suit, but it's interesting that Connections might decide to wait for the 2 mile 4 race to play on the Thursday. But he's another who certainly warrants a mention. And the final one, just either of you really, thoughts on the Goffer. It was an interesting horse, Harry. You said he ran in the race last year. Most interesting bit of VT I've probably sourced was a charity race win for this horse last time out. But of course, if you take a look through the form this year, it's pretty poor. But obviously, they've got him down to a decent enough mark, you'd say, based on what he's done before. What do you make of his chances for Gordon Elliott?
Yeah, he's only £2 lower than his run in the race last year. So they've definitely got him nicely handicapped. And the form of last year's race has a real strong look to it too. Of course, Quiet Rambler winning the race and Fast or Slow leading contender for the Gold Cup this season, back in second. I thought he ran well in the race last season. I guess the only downside is he's not looked in the same form over the past few months. Admittedly, he did win a charity race last time out, but I'm not too sure how you can rate that really in terms of going into Cheltenham. I'm not sure what the record would be of horses win a charity race to go on to win at the Cheltenham Festival, but he's obviously got the ability to go close. I expect this has been the plan for some time as well. I quite like the fact that he's coming here relatively fresh horse as well, because he wasn't really given a summer break and he was kept busy towards the end of the year as well. So he's got that charity race under his belt, which I'm sure he'll strip fitter for. And he's going to, I would say he's going to be primed for this race, isn't he, basically? And it's hard to see him not going close, or at least being involved in the finish again, for all that the Irish don't have a great record in the Ultima.
That's your detailed look at the race then. Harry's nap is Chianti Classico, who runs in the Ultima, and Katie's selection is Am I Right? Don't forget, Harry also thinks if Giovinco runs, he's worth a stab each way as well. Championship race time then on the Tuesday. The races, of course, lost some of its luster with Constitution Hill being ruled out of the champion hurdle. He won't defend his crown, and it looks a good opportunity for State Man to maybe take advantage. He's a 2-5 favourite. 3-1 for Lossiemouth, although she looks like she's going to go for the mares. Irish Point at 4-1. The supplemented Iberico Lord at 14s with Fighting Fifth Hero Not So Sleepy. Lucia, Pied Piper, Zaret the Brave at 16s. 20s Echoes in Rain. And 22-1 for Nameen Lion. So that's a look at the betting. State Man, banker of the day, Katie Midwinter.
Probably has to be. I can't see any of the horses beating him in this field. It is such a shame that Constitution Hill misses out, but I don't think anyone will begrudge State Man a champion hurdle win. He's run 8 Grade 1s. He dances all the dances, and I think he's really deserving of his day in the sun at Cheltenham. He's a fantastic horse. I think we're running out of superlatives for him as well. It's just a shame for him that he's around at the same time as Constitution Hill, I suppose. But no, I think he's by far the classiest horse in this field, given that Lossiemouth doesn't run here. And I think he's going to take all of the beating. So I expect him to win fairly comfortably.
That ISO was of his win, Harry, in the Irish Champion Hurdle. As Katie says, danced every dance. He's won 8 Grade 1s, and he's a horse who, in any other year, would still deserve to win a Champion Hurdle. Of course, his task has been made much easier with the defection of Constitution Hill. But it's been another superb season. Me and yourself were both at Close Sutton to see him recently. He looked a picture. And really, do you think this is a penalty kick for him?
It should be, to be honest. I was going through all the other horses last night, trying to find an each way angle, or maybe try and find a negative for State Man, but it is a struggle. It's not very original, but I think, barring accidents, he should win and should win this well. Interestingly, Willie Mullins said at the media day that he mentioned there that he maybe wasn't at his very best in last year's Champion Hurdle. Not sure whether I agree with that. I just think he was beaten by an absolute superstar on the day in Constitution Hill, who I'm absolutely gutted he's not turning up this year for the reasons that have been well documented. But as long as he jumps around, his jumping is really solid too. He's got good form at the track. He's very hard to find negatives for. With regards to an each way show, it's interesting that Iberico Lord has been supplemented for the race. Fair play to JP Mace and Nick Henderson for doing that. He's on the improve. I was impressed with him in the Betfair Hurdle last time out. If the ground is soft on day one, you could see him running well, but it really is hard to see him beating State Man in the Champion Hurdle. I thought he relished Cheltenham when he won the Greatwood Hurdle, which watching now on soft grounds. I think that is the key to him, because he obviously disappointed at Ascot after this run on quicker ground. So provided it is soft on day one, I think he's got an each way chance. But as I say, State Man is going to be extremely hard to beat.
That's a look at Iberico Lord. Something else at a price, Katie, that you like the look of is Nameen Lion.
Yeah, I think 20-1 is 22-1 even is a really generous price for him. He's rated £8 higher than Iberico Lord after his Kingwell Hurdle, who's much shorter in the betting now. Obviously has been supplemented and should run a big race. But I just think Nameen Lion is being overlooked a little bit. He's £11 higher than Lucia as well, who prefers better ground. So if the ground did dry out, then I think Lucia would certainly come into it for me. But the way it is at the moment, I'd be siding with Nameen Lion for an each way play. It has a bit to find with Not So Sleepy as well on the current ratings, but I think Nameen Lion is still improving. He's a really tough horse, and I can see him battling all the way to the line and running well enough to maybe nick a place.
Did the business well to win the Kingwell on this occasion. A couple of others that need mentioning, of course, is Irish Point. Firstly, it looks like he is going to be rerouted to this contest. Won at Leopardstown last time out. Harry, having a look at this win now, the Jack de Bromhead Christmas Hurdle. This was a slowly run 3 miles. I think the main thing is connections have a bit of a concern whether he really will see out the trip, and why run him when you've got Tihupu. May as well at least have a go at taking on State Man. Do you think it's probably the right decision to reroute with Constitution Hill's defection?
Yeah, I would say so, Danny. I think he improved for the step up in trip last time out, but as you say, it was a slowly run race, turned into a bit of a sprint. And although he has got that win over 3 miles next to his name, or extended 2 miles 7, it doesn't really tell the full story because of how the race was run. I think it's a good decision for them to go for the champion hurdle now. Constitutional isn't running. They've got Tiapa in the stairs, as you mentioned as well. He looks on paper the main danger to State Man, but I still think State Man is in a different league, basically. For all that, Irish Point should have a lot more to offer, and he's improving. So he's got a progressive profile, and you'd be surprised if he doesn't finish second or third in the champion hurdle, but he needs to take a big step forward to defeat State Man.
And one more to mention, Katie, is Not So Sleepy. Won the fighting fifth here at Sandown, the rescheduled one, of course. Beat the likes of Love Envoy, You Were It Well, and Goshen on this occasion. Before Iberico Lord, of course, being supplemented, he was the shortest priced British train runner. He's still the joint shortest priced. Do you give him any sort of chance? Place claims at best?
Yeah, I'd go for place claims at best, maybe finish third. I do expect Irish Point to probably finish second if he runs his race. And I agree with Harry. I think it is the right decision to bring him here instead of to the stayers. Not So Sleepy. He's such a likeable horse. He's become a bit of a legend. And I think he's a really good horse on his day. He is quite quirky. There's definitely something about him that makes people latch on to him. But he can be quite keen, as we saw last year. I can see him maybe improving on his fifth in the race last year. But I just don't think he'll be able to get anywhere near State Man. And I think if a couple of the others run a big race and show enough improvement, they're much younger than him too. I can see them maybe finishing ahead of him, but I can see him maybe finishing third or fourth if he's on a going day.
State Man, then it should be tough to beat in the champion hurdle. Of course, Lossiemouth at the current stage is still in the race, but it looks likely that she, of course, will go for the mares. Might go for the champion hurdle last year, Richie was saying this week when she's 6. We're going to talk about Lossiemouth anyway, because it's time to look ahead to the mares hurdle. She's the 1-2 Fav with Bet UK, 7-2 for Ashrow Diamond, 11-1 Marie's Rock, Love Envoy at 14s, 16s for Echoes in Rain, Gala Marceau, Hispanic Moon, Magical Zoe, 20-1 Lantry Lady, and Tell Me Something Girl, 25-1 Bar. Come to you first on this occasion, Katie. Lossiemouth, is she the one to beat?
Oh, definitely. She's maybe the banker of the day as well as State Man. There's 2 amazing chances for Willie Mullins on day 1 of the festival. I think she's incredible. She's quite unfortunate not to be unbeaten when she ran into the back of Jorda Feta at the DRF last year, and that kind of really hampered her, and Gala Marceau was able to beat her there. But I think she's incredibly talented. Her Triumph win was fantastic. She's a very professional mare, straightforward, and she proved herself in open company last time as well on her first run since the Punchestown Festival last spring. Had a bit of a quiet season, but I think that's been because Willie Mullins has wanted just to give his juveniles going into open company a bit of an easier time of things and not ask too much of them too soon. You think she could maybe even improve further for her run at Cheltenham last time around, and that's quite a scary thought because she was absolutely incredible there, and if she can improve on that, then it's going to be some performance. I'm not too worried about the step up in trip for her. I think she settles well enough to stay this extra distance, and she's just the class of the field, and she's got that bit of speed as well, so I think she'll be extremely tough to beat, and I expect her to put in a really good performance.
So that's Katie's thoughts on Lossiemouth. Are you in agreement, H?
Oh, it'd have to be Danny. Yeah, I thought she was really, really impressive last time out, being a decent field as well. I like the fact she's going here fresh with just one run under her belt this season. Obviously, with Triumph Hurdle winners going into open Grade 1 company, it can be difficult for them, but I've got no doubt she's the best horse in this race based upon her latest win. She jumped really well that day. She, of course, loves Cheltenham. Willie Mullins was really keen on her at this media day a few weeks ago as well. I think there's not many negatives I can find. Katie mentioned about the trip there. That is one question mark she's got to overcome, but I've got no doubt she'll stay the trip. If for some reason it did come up soft or heavy ground, then that's a different question. But it should be, on the softer side of good to soft at the very worst, I would say, looking at the weather forecast. And I think she may even improve for this step up in trip as well. So lots to like about her chances. And again, not very original, but she would be my pick in the mare's hurdle.
Okay, so both the guys with Lossiemouth. What about some of the other contenders, though? Ashrow Diamond, she's speedy and won at Doncaster last time out. We're going to roll it back to her win at Fairyhouse last year. She's already tasted Grade 1 honours with this victory. What chance her, Harry, to serve it up to a stable companion?
I think you can make a small case for her. I thought she was quite impressive at Doncaster last time out. She can get quite busy. I remember at the media day a few weeks back at Close Sutton, she was really on her toes and getting spooked at a lot of things. So that is a concern going into Cheltenham. Obviously, it's going to be her first visit to the track and be a big crowd. She could get a little bit worked up before the race. That would be my main concern with her, but she's definitely improving. I'm just not sure she's in the same caliber as Lossiemouth, who I think is just a step above these rivals, basically. Ashra-Dime, I can see maybe chasing her home, but it is hard to see her, defeating a stablemate, basically, in the Mayor's Hurdle on Tuesday.
Couple of others that are involved in both the Champion Hurdle and the Mayor's Hurdle at this stage include Echoes in Rain, who clearly has plenty of ability, Katie, but I think in either race she went for, she's probably booked for place claims at least. She's usually ridden cold. Interesting to see if they would change tactics on her. Just to mention maybe of her and a couple of others, Hispanic Moon, Love Envoi, anything you could see at a bigger price getting involved?
Well, I think Echoes in Rain, she stayed on well to finish fourth in the race last year. She's been highly tried now, though, and I just can't see her getting near Lossiemouth or Ashra Diamond and maybe a couple of others in here. It was a good run when she finished second in the Morgiana, but Pied Piper was disappointing that day, as we can see. And Philsdale Dairy probably wasn't expected to do much in the race, as his odds of 33-1 suggested. I think place claims at best. If I was having to have an each way bet in the race, I'd maybe have a look at Tell Me Something Girl, who was brought down in the race a couple of years ago when in the process of running a big race. She was tried over fences, didn't really work out for her. I think she could be a danger now back over hurdles. She's a really talented mare on her day. And as well, you wear it well. It's a huge price if she turns up. I know she's put in 2 poor performances this season, but they've both been on heavy ground. I don't think she stayed well enough at Doncaster when she was behind Marie's Rock. Was disappointing at Haydock last time, but I think can put a line through that run. She won the novice race last year from the front, beating some good mares, including Magical Zoe, Lucia, Jatara. The form has been franked nicely. And I think if they were to ride her more prominently, as she was in the Novices Hurdle last year, I think she could maybe be one that could outrun her massive odds. But again, I can't see her really getting close to Lossiemouth and probably Ashra Diamond as well. And I think Lossiemouth is probably going to take all of the beating.
Harry, we've got a former champion in the race, and we've also got a horse that was second in last year's renewal, Marie's Rock and Love Envoi of the British Challenge. Either of those make appeal to you at an each way price?
Potentially Marie's Rock, although I've been a little bit disappointed over this season. I don't think she's been at her very best. She obviously won last time out, but I still don't think she was quite there, even though she did win. Obviously, Love Envoi was no match for Lossiemouth last time out. She did run well in the race last season, and this has probably been the plan all along this season. So I expect her to get closer to Lossiemouth, but whether she can reverse the form, I don't think so. Marie's Rock, I think if the ground was on the better side and it wasn't soft, then I think she'd have an each way squeak. But as I mentioned, I just don't think she's been her very best this season. She's now a 9-year-old, and I don't think that I can make a strong enough case for either of them to defeat Lossiemouth.
Lossiemouth, 4:10 p.m. banker material in the Mayor's Hurdle. So let's look at that race. Coming up next, we'll be having a look at an interesting contest, which of course is the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. Must point you in the direction, though, first of the Racing TV website. We're filming on the Thursday before Cheltenham here. Plenty of Cheltenham material to get stuck into, by the way. You can read the thoughts from our columnists. You can read loads of previews, be that selections from our presenters or stable tours from the likes of Gavin Cromwell, Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott. Also got some features. Harry spoke to Ben Pauling. I did a behind-the-scenes piece at Close Sutton. Read more from Nicky Henderson. You can, of course, watch all the racing as well on Racing TV. And you can find out all the latest news on our Cheltenham homepage. Plenty to get stuck into there. And a reminder that if you want to join Racing TV, we've got that limited time offer for watchers of the Formbook just by scanning the QR code in the corner. Let's then have a look at this Boodles. Competitive. Your 5-1 favourite, is Lark in the Morning. 7-1 for Batman Jurac and Melantino. And Derby at 8s. Woodhoo at 10s. Eagle Fang and Liari at 11s. 12s for Miss Manzour and Jose Partir. 14s for Nara. 16s Carrier de Blazes. My French is superb. 20-1 bar. But a competitive looking contest this. The horse, of course, has been the talking horse in the build-up to the race, Katie, has been Lark in the Morning. What do you make of the chances of this one?
I think he's got an excellent chance of a mark of 1-2-2. We saw him this day at Punchestown and he was a real eye catcher. It's a bit messy at the last, lost a bit of momentum, but he was staying on all of the time, had a lot of ground to make up as well. I think he can really upgrade this performance. But we're just not sure how good he is yet, I suppose. He's been an on-runner the last 3 times, heavy ground, off-feed for one of those. But you'd think if the rain did come, it wouldn't suit him. But with this drying ground, he probably has to have a big chance. He's got a low enough weight as well. I think the form of the Punchestown race, high wind, he looked quite raw on that day. He then went on to finish 8th at the DRF. So I'd maybe question how good that form is. Pigeon House was in second there. He's a consistent horse, but he's consistently beaten. And Wood, who beat him by 24 lengths at Punchestown in October. So I think he could maybe have seen a little bit more from Lark in the Morning to justify his 5-1 favourite price here. But I think he has the potential to improve plenty, and we could maybe see him show a lot more progression at Cheltenham.
So that's a look at Lark in the Morning, but Katie Midwinter fancies one at a big price, 20-1. Couldn't even fit it on the graphic. Katie, who's the selection?
It's his stablemate, Cossack Chak, also for Joseph O'Brien. He's a well-related gelding by Churchill. He's got plenty of black type in his family too, so he has that bit of class about him. And I think people are forgetting his run here against Wood, who, when he was just beaten, he lost a little bit of momentum 2 out, but he still battled on, and he was just held by a filly that's unbeaten over hurdles, and she has that form with Nürburgring too. I think it's a really good level of form. This horse won at Killarney in the summer. Now, the form isn't fantastic there, but Show No Fear, who finished second, had finished just behind Pigeon House when the pair were behind Nürburgring on a subsequent run. And Kyogo of Gordon Elliott's was in third, has run a couple of races since too. That's Jet that day was the favourite, finished half a length behind Nürburgring in his subsequent run. So I think there is some depth to that form. And there's a race at Down Royal as well. And Leopardstown behind Calaconte, he made much of the running, which maybe didn't quite suit him. He just got picked off by some really talented juveniles, and behind that end, look to be a few of them that are going to be leading contenders for the Triumph Hurdle. So I just think that form with Cossack Chak, he's perhaps being overlooked at the prices. He's a huge price. I think he has strong each-way claims. I'd be hoping he could run a big race.
Okay, strong case made for Cossack Chak, 20-1 with Bet UK from Katie. H, we're in agreement on this race, but before we talk about that horse, just a word on a couple that have been backed. Double Green, Batman Girac, who's got decent form at Leopardstown, and Melantino, who of course represents Noel George, and he was a good third on this occasion behind Burdett Road and Sergino on Festival Trials Day.
He was, yeah. I think it's a sign that Connections think a lot of him to pitch him into 2 graded races at Cheltenham on his first 2 starts in Britain. He showed okay form in defeat in France before joining his current Connections. But I'm just not sure whether his rating is a lenient one or not. He's got 126. He's, as you say, he's attracted a bit of support lately, but I don't think there's anything that he's shown so far in Britain to make me think that he's going to be the winner of the Boodles, basically. I think an each-way case can be made for him. Maybe they've just been sort of testing the waters and seeing, how he's going to fare in graded company before targeting the Boodles. And he's run well in defeat, but he's been, put in his place quite quickly by some good horses. Batman Girac was 2 on my shortlist, which was Batman Girac and Nadawi, who we'll come on to in a moment. Batman Girac really caught the eye last time out. He was being talked up quite a bit before his run a couple of starts ago. It was really disappointing, but his effort last time out certainly signalled that a race of 133 could be lenient. He stayed on nicely behind some good horses to frank the form since, including Kyrgyz, who'd won at Grade 1 next time out. But my selection is Nadawi for the Gordon Elliott team. Gordon Elliott seems quite confident on his chances in this race, as confidence can be for a race of this nature. He was a decent performer on the flat for Andrew Baldwin before joining Gordon Elliott. And I think his first 2 runs over hurdles were educational ones, showed plenty of promise in defeat. But it's his win last time out that I was really impressed with. He travelled really nicely that day, got to the front easily, quickly pulled clear of his rivals. And I think if he was kept up to his work, he probably would have won by 20 plus lengths and maybe not even got in the Boodles. So the fact he was eased down and won by just over a couple of lengths, that was probably a blessing for him, because he's got in here off 134. He's set to carry top weight, but I think he's got a touch of class. He was a useful form on the flat, as I mentioned. And although it's an open race and it's hard to be confident on a selection in a race of this nature, he would be the one for me at the prices.
I think that's the concern, isn't it, H? He's got to shoulder top weight, but I think he's got class, he's got talent, and he's representing a trainer who's got a good record in the race. So, Ndawi for me and Harry, and it's Cossack Chak at 20-1 for Katie. Just give you the betting, by the way, for the Presbury Cup. Ireland at 1-14. The tie is 12-1, and GB at 16-1, highlighting their dominance in that. One more race to preview then, and that's going to be the National Hunt Chase. Interesting, small but select field. 15-8 fav at the moment is Corbett's Cross. 9-4 for Embassy Gardens. Salvador Ziggy at 9-2. Meeting of the Waters left in the race, but probably going elsewhere at 8, along with 3-card Bragg. 10-1 for Kilbeg King. And 14-1 bar those. So Harry, going to come to you first to make the case for the other leading contender in the race.
Yeah, I like the chance of Corbett's Cross here, Dan. He fell last time out, but it's worth noting that fall wasn't his fault. He jumped into the back of another rival and then fell. But he actually jumped the fence pretty well prior to that. His jumping, I think you can probably say, has been safe this season. It's probably why he isn't going down a 3-mile route or shorter, for like Brown Advisory or something like that. Because I think this test is going to suit him where they go a shade slower and his jumping isn't put under as much pressure. I basically believe this horse has got a touch of class. He was going to go close to the Albert Bartlett last season. I think he's probably improved again over fences season. He's been no match for Grange Clare West on a couple of starts, but that rival is a classy performer. And I basically think he just needs this step up in trip. He's going to be ridden by Derek O'Connor, I believe, which is a big advantage here. And he's only 7, so there should be plenty more to come. So I think he's tailor-made for the contest, and he would be my selection over. I know you're going to both make strong cases for Embassy Gardens shortly, but the reason I've gone against Embassy Gardens is because, one, he's never got into a proper battle. All of his wins have been easy wins. And I remember a couple of seasons ago, he flashed his tail under pressure when finishing second in the maiden hurdle. So that's one concern for me. The other concern is, although his latest win looks strong form on paper, the third was a non-stayer and the second ran on a different part of the track. So I think he may be flattered slightly by that. On a more positive note, Willie Mullins did sound pretty confident about his chances at the media day a few weeks ago. And out of all the horses he mentioned, I got the impression he really did like the chance of Embassy Gardens. So he said he's going to be really suited by his test. 3 mile 6 should suit. He's a brilliant jumper. So there is plenty to like, but just for those couple of negatives that I mentioned there, that is the reason why I'm going for Corbett's Cross instead.
Chinks in the armour, according to Harry. Katie, you're going to make the case, though, for Embassy Gardens.
Yeah, I can understand what Harry's saying about those chinks in the armour that he's shown previously. He just didn't settle at all in the Albert Bartlett last year. He was much too keen and free. But he was sent off as the shortest price of the Willie Mullins horses that day with Paul Townend aboard. So they clearly thought something of him. I think the switch to fences has just helped him settle a lot better. And he's been really good in both of his last 2 races. And he's unbeaten over fences so far. Maybe he hasn't had the opportunity to be in a battle yet, but that's because he's been so superior to his rivals. And I think his jumping is really sound. He's looked as though a step up in trip could bring further improvement from him as well. I think it's worth siding with Patrick Mullins in this race too. He is the leading jockey in the race. And I just think there could be a little bit more further improvement to come from him. I was a little bit worried with Corbett's Cross's jumping. I know perhaps he has improved on it, but he always looks like maybe he can make a mistake, and he ran out in the Albert Bartlett last year, so he clearly has his quirks. And I just think Embassy Gardens is the more reliable horse of the two. So he will probably be my nap of the day.
Katie's nap then is Embassy Gardens, and she's got the bad double whammy because I think Embassy Gardens should win. Here he is winning on his chasing debut at Punchestown. We already saw his win at Naas. I just think he's got unlimited class. He's got an engine. He's probably a horse. Of course, he wouldn't look out of place, nor would Corbett's Cross, though, to be fair, if either of them went in Grade 1 company. I think Corbett's Cross is interesting because if this was a real good stamina battle, probably would be with him. But I think Embassy Gardens has still got that little bit of class that can see him through to win a National Hunt chase. Corbett's Cross, for me, the big concern is his jumping. I'm just not comfortable enough. I know Harry said that wasn't his fault at Ferryhouse, and it wasn't. But even when he was second to Grange Clare West, he was very, very slow. I was there that day, and he kept losing a lot of lengths at his fences, which you get away with it in a National Hunt chase. But I think Embassy Gardens is a better leper. So I think that might even get him a few lengths at his fences. So with that in mind, I think I'll be with Embassy Gardens as well. He's my nap of the day. So 2 nap votes for Embassy Gardens, and Harry is taking us on with Corbett's Cross. Well, that makes life easy in terms of going back through the naps. Katie's is Embassy Gardens, mine is Embassy Gardens, and then Harry, just a final word on Chianti Classico, why you're sweet on that one and 250.
Yeah, I just think he's absolutely solid in the Ultima. Kim Bailey's just about to start hitting form again. Had a nice winner the other day, and a Grimthorpe. He just looks at a horse who's going to be suited by his test perfectly. I think he's a cracking each way bet, and it would be one of my stronger handicap picks of the week.
Just remember as well, 20 years of Cheltenham. Make sure you're watching the action on Racing TV. If you want to scan the QR code in that right corner, it's a limited time offer for new customers exclusively watching the Formbook. Also point you in the direction of the Bet UK offers again. Get £30 in free bets when you bet £10 Bet UK for new customers. And of course, we're also going non-runner, no bet. Thanks very much to Harry and Katie for their company for this afternoon show. Looking ahead to day 1 of the Cheltenham Festival. Plenty more to enjoy. Remember, you can watch all 28 races live on Racing TV. We'll be back, of course, as I said, with the day 2, day 3 and day 4 previews. Looking forward to that. But for the time being, thanks for watching the Formbook and good luck with your selections on day 1 of the Cheltenham Festival. Just please remember to gamble responsibly.